So today's webinar is using campus and community as sustainability living learning labs. Our presenters are Weston Dripps, Laura Bain, and Kelly Grant Purvis, all based at Furman University. I should have mentioned already, but I'll emphasize it now. This webinar is the first in the SCC series that is intended to showcase the work and the thought leaders based at AASHE's Sustainability Across the Curriculum Regional Centers. Furman's David Shee Center for Sustainability is one of the designated AASHE regional centers, and we're delighted that Weston and his colleagues opted to lead off this series. For those on the line or listening to the recording who didn't have a chance to see the original announcement for this webinar, let me briefly recap. Envision your campus and community as a sustainability pedagogical opportunity, a chance to infuse sustainability across your curriculum and provide applied real-world sustainability experiences for students. In collaboration with AASHE, Furman has run and will be offering again this summer an interactive idea-generating workshop for sharing and establishing best practices to utilize the campus and surrounding community as sustainability living learning labs. The workshop is aimed at faculty and sustainability staff who are currently using sustainability living learning labs on their campus or in their surrounding community, and focuses on building a shared framework for developing, institutionalizing, expanding, and maintaining living learning lab programs both on campus and in the surrounding community. This webinar will share the Furman experience from the workshop and the ideas gathered for supporting, enhancing, and refining campus and community sustainability living learning labs. Weston Dripps is the Executive Director of the David Shee Center for Sustainability, and he's also Associate Professor of Earth and Environmental Sciences at Furman. Shee Center is an interdisciplinary academic center fostering collaboration among faculty, students, and community leaders around real-world sustainability challenges on campus, in the Greenville community, and nationally. At Furman, in addition to directing the center, Weston has taught a wide variety of undergraduate, introductory, and upper-level courses in earth science, environmental science, sustainability science, and water resources. He's been heavily involved in the university's sustainability efforts, including helping to write the university's sustainability strategic plan. With Weston today, Kelly Grant Purvis is the Associate Director of the Shee Center. She works with student fellows, faculty affiliates, university staff, and local community organizations to educate and inform on a wide variety of issues related to sustainability. Kelly is a graduate of Ohio State, giving her a foundation in art. She spent the first decade of her professional career focused on sustainable architecture and green building, working with local governments, nonprofits, and private companies. This experience created an interest not only in the elements of the built environment, but also in the ecological side of urban planning and developed landscapes. She pursued a master's degree at the College of Charleston to focus on the relationship between the built environment and natural elements within that landscape. Last but not least, Laura Bain is Associate Director of Sustainability Assessment at Furman. She holds her bachelor's degree in biology from Furman and a master's in environmental management from Duke. She spent 9 years working at She spent 9 years working at a regional land trust, serving as stewardship specialist, where she enjoyed getting to know landowners and exploring some of South Carolina's most beautiful protected lands. In her current role at Furman, she enjoys working with students, faculty, and staff to implement creative solutions for meeting the university's ambitious sustainability goals. With that, I want to turn...
Oh, I had a kid cry too. I had a kid cry. I didn't know, but
You did make a kid cry?
I've seen her.
Are we still there?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
I was about to turn it over to you, but given the interruption, it is again worth mentioning that what's in the chat box, which is to please mute your lines for audio and recording quality, and to please, as the webinar proceeds, type your questions and comments for the presenters in the chat box. And so with that, I am hoping that we, Weston, have you been able to pull up your slides?
My slides should be up. Can you guys see them?
I am not seeing it yet.
Oh, 1 second. All right, they're going to come up in just a sec here.
Yep. Now I'm seeing them.
Got it?
Yep. Okay. The floor is yours, Weston. Go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks, Ira, for the introduction, and thank you all for actually joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. I won't spend a lot of time going through our introductions again, except to just say you're talking to 3 folks. So I'm Wes Dripps. With me is...
Hi, I'm Kelly Grant Purvis. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura.
And I wanted to give you just a quick context for those that don't know Furman, although I think pretty much everything we're going to talk about today really is applicable to most institutions. I don't know if everything we'll mention is applicable to all, but if you don't know Furman, we're a 4-year private liberal arts institution here in Greenville, South Carolina. We're small, but not too small for liberal arts. We have 2,700 students, a sizable campus. We're a residential, kind of rural campus, about 7 miles outside of downtown Greenville. So we have a lot of land to kind of work with. And I will say contextually, we have a long-standing commitment to sustainability. It goes back a few decades. And so really a lot of what we'll talk on is not necessarily my work or Kelly Grant's work or even Laura's work. It's building on all my predecessors who came before me with regards to both sustainability, but also the campus as a living learning lab. Ira mentioned that we work at the David E. Shai Center for Sustainability. In some ways, actually, it's its own living learning lab. And so I would just mention that I think this is maybe a little bit unique to many campuses, and that we have actually a physical center focused on sustainability. This building pictured here is actually a former Southern Living showcase home. Our past president, David Shai, for which the center's name, partnered with Southern Living magazine back in 2007, who were looking to do a green design showcase home. And we gave them space on campus, and the house was built as a kind of living learning lab, but really as a showcase home to highlight green design principles and features. Then in 2008, it was transitioned into our Academic Center for Sustainability, which is where Laura, Kelly Grant, and myself all reside. We actually have a staff of 6 folks. So I also have an organic farmer who works under us, a department assistant, and another program coordinator. So we are a staff of 6. I will also mention that we are one of 14 different regional centers for sustainability across the curriculum. If you're not familiar with this program, AASHE a couple of years ago decided that they wanted to create some regional hubs to help push out kind of workshops and training around infusing sustainability across curriculums. And we were lucky enough to be one of 2 that represent kind of the Southeast here in the United States. Although we hope that the workshops and stuff we offer are open to anyone. You don't have to be necessarily from the Southeast. But as part of that agreement, we agreed to offer an annual workshop kind of on a topic of our choosing. And after thinking about what we wanted to focus on or talk about, we realized there actually weren't a lot of opportunities, kind of development opportunities for sustainability staff. There seemed to be an abundance of opportunities for faculty interested in infusing sustainability, but less so for probably many of you folks who maybe might not be in a faculty role, but are in some kind of sustainability staff position. So we put our heads together and actually decided we'd love to connect with other campuses that were using the campus, and in our case also the community, as a living learning lab. But if you were like us, we were going a little bit kind of trial by fire and felt that there would be a great need to bring together people that were battling with the kind of same questions and issues that we were, and really have a chance to kind of share best practices. So we ran the first workshop back in August of last year. Felt it was wildly successful. We had 12 participants from literally all over the country. In fact, it was international. We even had a Canadian join us. And it went so well that we decided we would actually replicate that workshop again this June. So if you are interested in some of the stuff that we talk about, we won't be able to cover a lot in a lot of detail for time considerations. We'd love to have you join us here on campus for a couple days in June, where we'll kind of take a deep dive into kind of sharing best practices, sharing stories, sharing successes and failures around living learning labs. And at the end of the webinar, I will give you the link that allows you to go ahead and sign up for that or find out more information. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Grant, who will kind of launch us in some of the existing frameworks and best practices resources that are out there.
Yeah, hi everybody. So of course, as we work to make the best use out of our own living learning lab spaces on campus, and then in preparation for the workshop, we went and ferreted around for some resources that would help us do that. And we wanted to just share a couple of the best resources with you today as part of the webinar. So first, there's a wonderful network called Campus as a Lab Community of Practice, and it's run by Carolyn Savage out of Princeton. And the organization on your screen is how to sign up for their listserv, which will at least get you started. The organization includes a Google Drive that's full of really helpful resources. Of course, there's the listserv, as you can see, and then there's also a monthly conference call where folks present about what they're doing on their campuses. And we found that to be a really helpful organization to be part of, both in terms of sharing, being able to ask questions of other folks also interested in living learning laboratory practices, and is just a fantastic resource. The next one we wanted to share with you is a sort of manual, the Campus as a Living Laboratory. And this tool was developed by Todd Cohen and Brian Lovell. And really, they were thinking of community colleges when they developed this guide. And as you can see, it's all about using the built-in environment to really expand the educational opportunities on your campus. But we've found that it applies to the majority of college and university campuses. It's intended for faculty, sustainability officers, and facility staff. And this is a really great overview document, and it's a great place to start if you're looking for resources resources about living learning labs. And this one was published in 2013, so it's relatively recent. A more recent resource is this one. It's called the Guide for Applied Sustainability Learning Projects. And this one comes out of Arizona State University and Portland State University, and it's by Fletcher Bodine and Katia Brundiers. Sorry about the mispronunciation. And this guide provides a really in-depth, step-by-step framework that you can apply to either creating new living learning laboratory spaces on your campus or really fully utilizing existing spaces. So this guide also helps you gain a really in-depth understanding of how to enhance the student experience with these learning labs. And in addition to all of that, it also helps contribute to the sustainability of your campus and your community in really meaningful ways for the long term.
All right, guys, so this is Laura. I'm going to talk a little bit about some specifics now about what we do at Furman. I'm going to start on a topic or a level that's a little bit smaller. So we talk about living labs in 3 different sort of lenses. The first lens that we're going to look at are dedicated spaces. So many of you may have places on your campus that are used for a specific purpose. So we have several that we would consider living learning lab dedicated spaces, and you'll see some of them pictured here. We like to think about sustainability from a more holistic definition, including things like wellness and broader topics of economics and social well-being. And so we include places like the Place of Peace that you'll see here in the top left corner, which is a Japanese temple that was actually deconstructed in Japan and then brought to our campus and put back together by Japanese craftsmen. And it is used primarily by the Asian Studies Department, but can be used by anybody on campus. It's just a great place to sit and reflect or talk about some broader topics of sustainability. And then you'll see a couple other places like the Thoreau Cabin, which is a replica of Thoreau's cabin on Walden Pond, built on the edge of Furman's Lake at the same distance actually as it is to Walden Pond. So a few places like that we use just specifically for learning labs on campus. The other ones I won't go into detail about so that we can keep things moving, but the Living Machine is a wastewater treatment plant that's connected to our science center. The Furman Farm, Wes mentioned we have an organic farmer here. The farm is right behind the SCI Center and provides great opportunities for students. Furman Lake, we have a small lake on campus as well, so it provides some obvious opportunities to do water quality sampling or any multitude of stormwater management opportunities for classes or labs. And then more recently, we have a solar farm that was installed and became operational last summer and is still providing some new opportunities for us to look at energy efficiency and general ways that we can improve our carbon footprint on campus. Another lens that we like to think about when we think about living and learning labs are not the physical spaces, the dedicated spaces on campus, but more along the lines of our operations. So a couple of really cool projects that happened here are waste audits, which really bring some high visibility for students, both in the amount of recyclables that are ending up in the waste stream or in the dining hall with food waste. And those are really kind of in-your-face ways to get students involved and raise some awareness about sustainability issues. Another cool project you'll see in the bottom left, food services. So we had a really great student who was interested in working with our dining service and noticed that there was a lot of food that was not being eaten and then having to be thrown away. So she worked with our head chef here, who was able to work out a partnership with a local nonprofit so that the leftover food can then be donated. So when you think about campuses and their operations, there are lots of opportunities to use those as laboratories for students, including landscaping and building operations as also are listed. And then kind of the bigger lens that we want to look at is our community. So we like to look beyond our campus and work with community partners. And Kelly Grant is going to give you a little bit more detail on how we have engaged those community partners.
Yeah, so one of the main ways that we do that we work not only on our campus, but also extend our living learning labs out into the community is through our Student Fellows program. As Wes mentioned at the beginning, Furman University is a liberal arts university, and we really put a lot of focus and emphasis on our students and also our student experience. And so we have had a whole lot of success expanding the range of opportunities and expanding the range of different topics that we are able to connect with sustainabilities by building partnerships with local organizations. And primarily we do that through our Student Fellows program. Here's a group of them from a couple of cohorts ago. And so essentially what we do is we run during the course of the year 2 different cohorts. One of them is during the academic year. One of them is during the academic year. And that group of students really focuses on on-campus efforts just given their class schedules and the other responsibilities that they have, it's much easier to keep them working here on campus on topics such as waste management, alternative transportation, programming, and planning, and also helping Laura when she does things like STARS assessments, just to name a couple. And then the second group of students, they work with our partner organizations, and they do more of a full-time work experience with these partner organizations during their summer break. And they work to impact sustainability-related issues in our community as a whole. And again, we're trying to cover a very broad range of topics because the SCHI Center services not just students that are focusing on sustainability or environmentally related degrees, but the entire student body of campus, and also the entire faculty body of campus for that matter. And so we really work to make sure we're covering as many topics as we can and using as many student skill sets as we can. And so some of those opportunities include things like working with at-risk youth to do job training and teaching them about being responsible individuals in our community, working to provide healthcare to folks who have a difficult time gaining access to healthcare, working in a conservation education with folks like the Greenville Zoo, and then also land conservation and a whole myriad of other topics. So the Student Fellows program typically has somewhere between 20 and 30 students every year, and so that includes both the 10 to 15 students that are here in the academic year focused on campus projects, and then another 10 to 15 in the summer that are focused on community-based projects. And then we do pay those students, and we ask that they really focus on their fellowship as what they're doing to earn money. And particularly over the summer, we ask that it's their primary engagement because we really do want them to be able to focus on that and to go in depth. The final way that I wanted to tell you about that we engage the community is through our Community Conservation Corps program. And that program is a weatherization program, a home weatherization program for low-income homeowners. So we really like this program. We partner with Habitat for Humanity, and we also partner with the local utility providers to run the program. And we feel that it really embodies sort of the triple bottom line of sustainability. And not only are we building connections and helping people in our community, but we're also saving these homeowners, some pretty vulnerable homeowners, significant money on their utility bills, and we're generating carbon credits for the university to use towards our goal of carbon neutrality.
Okay, so this is Laura again, and so the next thing we wanted to try to talk a little bit about are some of the benefits, barriers, challenges to integrating living learning labs into your curriculum. So talking about living learning labs is the easy part, and most of you probably have experienced sometimes implementing them can be a little bit more of a challenge. So I'm going to talk about just a few ways that we have addressed these challenges when it comes to integrating into curriculum and research. So the picture you see here is actually the construction of the Thoreau cabin that you saw earlier. And it happened during a May X, which is a May semester. It's about 3 weeks long. It gives an opportunity for students to really focus on a particular topic and really go in depth and be a little bit more intentional about it. So that's one way that we've been able to tackle larger projects like the Thoreau cabin, or something that really requires a lot of consistent, consecutive time to think it through. The other really great way that we have approached it is through our affiliate faculty program. So it runs similar to our student fellowships. It's a program where we really intentionally talk with our faculty, and we open up this program for any discipline and invite them to come once a month to the SCI Center and talk about sustainability topics, and really have an opportunity to network with each other and to make those connections that they might not have been able to make otherwise when it comes to doing their research or even classes that they may be teaching for the semester. We try to provide them with resources along the way, or feedback or support in whatever way that we can at the SCI Center. On top of that, just the networking opportunity. And right now we have about 21 of 24 of our academic departments represented in the affiliate faculty program, so it's been quite successful. And then just more generally, we're always looking for ways to engage different groups on campus and provide workshops. Most recently, we've launched a Green Office program and have been able to really reach out to department assistants and faculty chairs of different departments and engage them on a very practical level with our Green Office program. And then we're beginning talks with our HR department to host a sustainability topic that's part of a series of workshops for professional development that is already taking place. So just being creative and looking for those ways to engage with different groups on campus has been helpful as well. And then the last thing I'll share is a new thing that we're trying out. It was a product of our most recent faculty affiliate gathering. We had a retreat of sorts, and so this is an Excel sheet, a shared Excel sheet that we began just with the sustainability staff here, making a list of 100+ projects that we thought would be useful, that could take place on campus, that would be supportive of sustainability efforts, either that are already underway or that we could really benefit from. So we put that list together and then came together with a collaborative workshop so that the faculty could see it all at the same time, work on it all together, and kind of sign up for topics, or at least express interest in topics that they were thinking about or think that they might be able to incorporate into a class or a lab, or just as part of their individual research even. So we had them kind of commit to, this is something that I'm interested in. And so we'll follow up with that and try to figure out ways that we can actually make those projects come to fruition. And this helped us focus a little bit more of what we would like to see happen on campus, and also find ways to help our faculty come up with those projects that they need for their classes and their labs.
Great, thanks, Laura. And I'll follow on that. I mean, as a sustainability director and staff, you may have a similar experience where people are always coming to you, where faculty are looking for ideas, but they tend to come up with their own ideas without necessarily thinking if that has value or relevance beyond kind of the student experience. So there was a stint where there were maybe 30 different people coming up to asking me about transportation on campus. And so we decided better for us to be a little bit more proactive and help seed those faculty with things that have both the student value, but also actually a practical value towards our sustainability efforts. One of the things we've taken it maybe a little step further, and some of you may have similar programs at your institutions. About 8 years ago, a bunch of colleagues and I got together and actually formed a whole degree program around sustainability science. So we now offer a Bachelor of Science degree in sustainability science. It has been wildly successful. As the other day, I think we had 60 declared majors in SUS. It really has taken off with regards to that. And so I won't go into the details of that except to say it's a standalone program. It has its own core curriculum. We've hired faculty now in sustainability science to teach in that program. It does reside within the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences. And if you're interested in knowing more about that curriculum, I have a great brochure that kind of lays out the coursework and our kind of philosophy that I'm more than willing to share. One part of that program, though, that I've tried to leverage my own self, both as the director of the SCI Center, but also as a faculty member, is the Living Learning Lab component. And so all students in that degree program are required to either do a thesis or a practicum project. And that has, I've been able to actually have it kind of kill two birds with one stone, in a sense that They're things that I feel the university needs around its sustainability efforts, but again, great student opportunities for research. I won't bore you with the tens of different projects, but I can give you a quick sampling of maybe one of those projects. I had a student who was interested in better understanding our food system. And so I reached out to our food provider, which at the time was Aramark, and said, hey, I'd love to have a student work very closely with you in conjunction to really do a full-fledged true sustainability assessment of all the food sourcing. And they agreed and actually took her on as an employee. So it was a paid position that she got. And the process gave her access to really do a pretty detailed, thorough assessment. You can see the rubric here on the screen that she used as more or less the flow chart to assign an actual quantitative score to every single ingredient that Aramark was purchasing that looked not only at things like production method and third-party certification around sustainability, but how locally sourced it was and kind of how extensive the supply chain was, how many middle folks along the way were kind of involved in that process. And from that, it provided us really valuable information where we could then provide a quick visual as to how we were doing with regards to the sustainability for any month or for any other kind of component. And so again, I won't get into the details, but it just gives you a quick indication that really a snapshot as to where we had a lot of room for improvement at the time, but that really has helped now change some of our procurement and purchasing policy as we move forward. The other option that students have is to do a practicum project. So the thesis project is a one-on-one with a faculty member. The practicum project is a group project. So this past fall, I helped co-teach the practicum course, and we had 16 students. So we had 4 groups of 4 and tasked each one of them with kind of taking on a sustainability challenge or issue on campus. So one group looked at the transportation on campus. We didn't have an existing alternative transportation plan, so they really became the pioneers in pulling together all the stakeholders and actually in one centralized document, kind of documenting what we've done, but also laying out a vision and a master plan as to how we can improve our transportation with sustainability in mind. We did a similar thing with landscape in terms of looking at our landscape practices, as well as with our campus farm. We have a 1/3 of an acre organic practice farm that really was set up as an educational teaching facility, but increasingly more trying to look for opportunities, particularly around the economics, to make it self-sufficient and sustainable, and looked at a number of different scenarios to build out to add things like a greenhouse or an outdoor teaching space, as well as actually adding some additional acreage on the farm and how that would play out. And then the one in the upper right was we recently purchased a piece of property right on the edge of campus that we currently don't have plans for. And so it was great to task them to think about how that space might be utilized with a sustainability lens around kind of things like retail and affordable housing, and even some academic space for potentially like a new idea center or design school. So again, the key, I think, with all these living learning labs is being intentional about building it into your curriculum. And so the major has really afforded us that opportunity to be very intentional around that. If you don't have a major, there are also opportunities to infuse it into your courses. I can tell you this is a course that I teach in Watershed Hydrology. When I first came to Furman, I taught it as a kind of more traditional kind of textbook course where we had labs and we went out and did stuff around campus, but I wasn't really intentional about intentionally integrating all those components. And I completely redesigned the course, given that we have a 28-acre lake right here on the heart of campus. And now the whole course is basically developed around the idea of developing a water budget for the campus lake. It has completely changed how students feel about the course and the practical nature of it. It's allowed us a lot more time in the field. And again, I think tying them to the campus lake that they had obviously taken a look of the aesthetic and the beauty of it, but really hadn't, I think, thought of it in kind of a new light. If you don't want to redo your whole course, we've done some interesting things around combining efforts. So one of my frustrations had always been I might have a class of only 20 or 25 students, and I want to take on a big challenge, something like maybe inventorying all the trees on campus. Well, we have thousands of trees on campus, and if I had my one class do that, I'd be looking at probably 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 lab periods of time. That gets boring for the students in terms of they're doing the same thing again, time and time again. And so the educational value kind of decreases. But if we're thinking about the value of our campus trees, it's something that needs to be done. So in the upper left corner, you'll see I actually decided, well, what if we pooled resources? And so I pulled together an economic professor, a sustainability science professor, a biology professor, myself, and said, what if we combine all of our intro classes into one cohort, and in one afternoon, we'll bring us all together in what we've called the multi-class mega lab, and we tasked them with actually inventorying all of the trees across main campus. And in one 3-hour period, they inventoried about 2,200 trees. And again, something that if I had just my one class doing would have taken forever to do. But then we could use a program called iTree and actually convert the measurements that were made on every tree into an actual ecosystem valuation. And if you're not familiar with iTree, it gives information about the carbon sequestration associated with the tree, the water runoff mitigation in terms of the storage of water by the trees, among a whole slew of others. And also an economic value. It puts an actual dollar amount on those ecosystem services. So we had a collective database that we had assembled as a group, but I might be interested in the water piece for my hydrology class. The biologist might be interested in looking at biodiversity, the economist in terms of ecosystem valuation, the sustainability science, in some other aspect, but we could then collectively use this one comprehensive database for each of our interests, but we had kind of compiled it all together as one team. This has been a great model. And again, I can share the details of that. We presented it a couple of times at AASHE and other places. But again, another opportunity if you don't want to redo a whole course. Lastly, I'll mention that we've also tried to move the sustainability efforts into our residential communities. So we now have developed 2 sustainability living learning communities. The one pictured here is actually a sophomore living learning community. We have 4 cabins that are actually part of the housing pool that reside right along Furman Lake. They're quite cute. And when they were developed, they intentionally put in a number of sustainability features. You can see the solar thermal up on the top. They've got a number of amenities like solar tubes and other stuff actually in the interior. But students now that are freshmen rising into becoming sophomores can apply to this. It's a competitive application-based process. But I select 22 students each year to live in this community. And it originally was just kind of a residential community. And then 2 years ago, we added a curricular component. So they now, as a cohort, take a course.
Come on now.
They now take a course in the fall around sustainability, living and leadership, and then a course in the spring called Making Change Happen that really is project-based around kind of campus sustainability projects. Again, more than willing to share the details of that, but that's been a great success, and each year we kind of evolve the program. And then last, this is a picture of the cohort from last year. We do other fun stuff too. They were building a solar dehydrator, but we built solar ovens, and we've done hands-on stuff as well as the usual kind of curricular lifestyle types of questions. And then we also have a number of first-year programs. This is a program I started about 12 years ago now, hard to believe, called the Environmental Community of Students. This is a program for incoming first-year students. They apply to live together as a cohort. So they often are roommates or live together amongst a few halls, and then take a course in the fall in environmental science, and then a course in sustainability science in the spring for just that cohort. These are pretty common programs now around a lot of other institutions around engaged living and learning, but I wanted to showcase these 2 in particular because of the focus on sustainability. And again, a great way to kind of have them look at their campus more intentionally around it as a living learning lab. I'm going to stop there and leave you with 2 things, and then turn it back to Ira for any questions into the group. But I'll remind you, I mentioned the workshop. We do a lot more than what I've given you today or that we've talked about. You can see the different sessions that are part of that workshop that include not only a deep dive into a lot of these different curricular frameworks, but also discussions around how do you administratively and financially support these, what kind of dashboard or database portals do you maintain around them, as well as the ever elusive, how do you assess and what are the metrics for evaluating success. If you're interested in this, the link is below. And again, you're more than willing to follow up with me. I can provide you the link, or you can just search Furman University AASHE Hub and it will come up. But it will be a 2-day workshop. We intend to have a lot of fun as well as discuss all these topics. So we'd love to have any and all of you join. Space is limited to 12 and is filling fast. So if you are interested, I'd say reach out to us sooner rather than later. The deadline is coming up on April 9th is when we'll actually close that portal. And so I'll leave you with our email contact and encourage any of you to follow up with any of us in person or via phone or email. We'd love to talk further about any of these. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Ira, and let folks ask some questions before we run out of time.
Well, we still have time, and I would encourage folks to continue to send their questions and comments in through the chat box, and we have received a number of questions and comments. First of all, this slide that you have up there now, Weston, with your contact information is useful because there are folks writing in asking for further information about your Bachelor of Science program and your mega lab approach. And I want to mention to all attendees, please direct those requests to Weston and his team at these email addresses that are up on your screen rather than to SCC. Weston has the information. We do not. So we'll start with that.
Yeah, and I'd say any folks who want to reach out to me, I have that. I can turn that information around very quickly. Just send us a quick email.
Great. And while we're still on that slide at the administrivia level, a couple of people have, while the webinar was in progress, tried to join the listserv for Living Labs, and at least one person indicated that the email bounced back. Can someone either go back to that slide or restate the email to which interested persons need to sign up for the Living Lab listserv that's run by Carolyn Savage at Princeton, who I should also mention has done an SCC webinar on Living Labs, which is available in our webinar archive. But if one of you could repeat the
yeah, I'll quick toggle back if you want to the slide. Is that the
that'd be great. Then we can come back to your contact slide again.
Hang tight. So
and I think the key with that is to make sure that you remove your email signature from the body of the message. You just want it to say subscribe campus as lab. Okay,
we're on that slide now. Thank you. So,
and if for any reason you have issue, if you search Campus's Lab Community, Carolyn Savage, or connect with her, she can definitely link you into that. It's a pretty vibrant community. I don't know, Laura, you have a sense of it, there's probably 70, 80, 90 people maybe actively involved with that cohort.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a good call. It's always informative.
Very good, thank you. And let me start with just a wide open softball question for the three of you. One attendee would like to know, what do you do to encourage interdisciplinary work on Living Lab projects, since bringing faculty and students from different disciplines together is the key to finding sustainable solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we benefit from that maybe others don't have is we have that physical meeting space. So the fact that we have the SCI Center for Sustainability, which is a standalone building, is real benefit to us because we can invite folks from all those disciplines to a more neutral site to get them together and really collaborate. I won't lie as either. We also give them a carrot. For our affiliate faculty, we offer wine and beer and cheese. And so we hook them with the enticement of a nice Friday afternoon beverage as the way to get them here. And then once we're here, we sink our talons in them and force them to actually talk to each other. But I think a lot of, in our case, just getting them actually together in physical space, a lot of the interdisciplinary work has been more organic. We haven't had to micromanage a lot of that collaboration. It's just getting them together around a table to talk about issues. So we set kind of a broad agenda. Maybe it's a topic around living learning labs or using some of the physical spaces, and then turn them loose. And we found that actually they kind of take the bull by the horns, and before they know it, 4 or 5 different folks are talking about how they can work together. The other piece I'd mention is Kelly Grant. We didn't talk about, we have a research grants project as well. So we have a small pool of money that we can offer to faculty to work together in an interdisciplinary sustainability project. And in fact, we mandate in the RFP that it has to be 2 faculty from 2 different disciplines with at least 1 student involved in the grant request. And so again, we've kind of set the standards, but again, we've been pleasantly surprised by the level of interest. And some of the projects that have come from that have been really fascinating. You'll have a historian working with a biologist, or you'll have a music person working with a biologist and an English professor. Things that I think would have never naturally happened if we hadn't kind of seeded that discussion and incentivized it a little bit.
And sometimes there are students who have double majors that can provide a link between 2 different departments because they are particularly interested in working at the intersection of 2 topics.
Yeah, I can give you an example of that. I had a student who was a sustainability science major and also heavily interested in psychology. And I'm a hydrologist by training and recently published a paper on disordered eating habits and sustainability because she was interested in looking at disordered eating as it relates to people that are vegans or vegetarians, and are they more predestined to have an eating disorder, disordered eating, based on those often environmental choices. But it allowed me to work with a psychologist that I knew, but I never really worked together. And we worked together and ended up publishing a paper on it. Again, had it not been for the student kind of seeding that discussion, that never would have happened.
Very good. Let's move on to some more questions. Next, I'd like to actually juxtapose 2 different questions. The first one asks, how do you work and collaborate with physical plant and maintenance staff to become engaged with student faculty initiatives? And the other one is, for potential projects, how do you engage other operational units beyond physical plant and facilities, such as HR and finance?
Well, I'll take those. This is Laura. So part of my role very intentionally has been to be a liaison with our facilities department. So I attend monthly meetings with facilities just to keep up to date on projects that are coming online on campus, and really just to get to know our facilities crew. I think there's definitely some invaluable benefit to just knowing who those folks are and what they do on a day-to-day basis. So some recent projects, I guess, that we could point to are one, we just were able to implement glass recycling on campus. And so our county doesn't take glass recycling currently. And so there's been a hole for a few years where we haven't been able to recycle glass at all. And so we were able to work with our custodial manager to get a grant to implement that on campus. And then we also have an energy manager, which I think maybe is unusual, I'm not sure, in higher education, but So I've been able to build a relationship with him and really look for opportunities for students to get involved in some upcoming projects looking at data analytics systems. So hopefully pulling in computer science students or students with a different skill set than we've had typically engaged at the SCI Center. That I think addresses the first question. Can you repeat the second, or did I cover it already?
Like HR and how to engage with other.
HR, right. HR, so I've actually just recently been having conversations with some folks in HR. I did mention we're working with them to put together a workshop through a professional development series that Furman hosts already. So we're kind of inserting ourselves into that process. And we've also just used them to help us advertise some programs that we run on campus through our internal newsletters. That's about the extent of my work with them thus far. I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, we've done, although we're an academic center, we've done a lot more with Res Life. So we've been more intentional about trying to have access to students around the kind of sustainable living lifestyle decisions happening in the residence halls. We've partnered very explicitly with the admissions department in terms of co-leveraging kind of some brand recognition around sustainability. You know, so I think the key in all these things is, again, make sure that it's pitched as a win-win for both entities. You don't want to be that nag that is the sustainability center that's always coming and kind of asking for increased demand. So as Laura mentioned, I think we've been trying to see it more as a collaborative partnership where we meet them where they're at and then try to infuse sustainability into things that they're already doing, or sometimes push the needle to do something maybe different than the way we've done in the past. But we've had good success. I hear horror stories of other places that have had a hard time connecting with facilities. I have to admit we've been really lucky and that we have a very, very proactive and supportive facility staff that, again, Laura has a great working relationship, and they've been a great strategic partner for us around the getting access to data and sharing data with students and incorporating students kind of in the even campus operations pieces.
Very good. Do have a couple of more questions here, and as we start to wrap up. The first one is, how have you raised funds to pay interns? I guess another way of phrasing that would be, have you raised funds to pay interns?
Yes, we have raised funds through a number of different means. We do have some federal work study money. We also have some operating funding that comes through the university. We have had a number of different grants that have supported fellowships that are usually topic specific. And lately, we have been working quite hard to grow some endowed funds so that we have a bit more freedom to work with community partners that we think are particularly valuable on topics that we're particularly interested in, to be a little bit less sort of a chain to certain topics because of grant funding and those opportunities. And the other reason for that is it's very nice to have a steady flow of income rather than the sort of more temperamental income that you get when you apply for and obtain grant funding.
And I'd add to that, I mean, we've been really lucky in that we've been able to grow a pretty sizable endowment and really sell the student experience piece to donors and other folks to help kind of support that program. But I do know at other institutions, they've worked some kind of like matching system. So we've been lucky enough to actually fully fund all 30 of these fellows, both during the academic year and during the summer. But there are a lot of places where maybe you go halvesy with them. So maybe the community partner contributes half of the funding and then the center does the other half. Kelly Grant may have mentioned one of the things we've changed in that program that I think has been a change for the good, but it's because we actually are funding them all, is we've now developed a cohort model. So in the summer, they work with their community partner for 37 hours a week. And then Wednesday afternoons, we have all of the interns, or the fellows, should I say, together here at the center for 3 hours a week, where we do a lot of leadership training, professional development, as well as some fun kind of getting to know, so that they really see the fellowship as a fellowship and not just us as an internship placement center, which I was concerned that they were using the center just as a way to get an internship, but then missing some of the bigger overarching goals and mission of the SCC Center in particular. So we've done now that for 2 summers. We'll continue that this summer, but that has been a great addition and kind of, I think, a new approach that I think has been a real good kind of value added for us.
Well, one way of concluding this presentation is to give you another opportunity to tout the workshop at Furman in early June. And that ties into the final question that we have here from attendees. The question is, have any of your workshop members come from urban campuses?
Yes, we certainly had a number of urban campuses. Arizona State University and College of Charleston were in attendance last year, and those are the 2 that come to the top of my mind. Can you think of others?
Those are the big city, yeah, those are the main city ones.
And so what we try to do when we're picking folks to participate in the workshop is make sure we're getting a cohort of folks that really represent a lot of diversity, both in terms of their campus locations, their campus sizes, and also the types of universities that they come from, because it really is a workshop. It's very interactive, and all of the folks that are there have the opportunity to do idea generation and brainstorming with everyone as a group.
Yeah, it really is geared at more of, as I mentioned, kind of a collective sharing of best practices. So it's maybe less geared if you haven't done anything with learning labs. This isn't meant to be a workshop that's going to tell you like how to start a living learning lab. I would say it's probably more geared at kind of that intermediate level. It's like, okay, we've done some of this, but I don't know if we've done it really well. How can we bring together a cohort to really have kind of a deeper discussion about what's working, what's not working, questions like how do you fund this institutionally, like a deeper dive, what does that external funding look like, how do you sustain that funding, how do you assess that, how should we be assessing these? So it's a chance to, it's less of kind of a how to start and probably more of a best practices, let's get together and make it a collaborative endeavor. Certainly we lead and we will share all our experience here at Furman, but as Kelly Grant said, there's lots of opportunity for you to bring your ideas, your experiences, and we want to make sure that that's built into actually the workshop. There's plenty of time for sharing and reflecting.
Well, thank you, Weston, Kelly Grant, and Laura for a tremendous multifaceted tour through all of your work at Furman, and special thanks for launching our webinar series showcasing AASHE's sustainability across the curriculum regional centers. For everyone else on the line, going back to my opening comments, please do take a look at the SCC website for further information about our numerous upcoming webinars, the online cohorts that we'll be scheduling, and our faculty conference in Pittsburgh on June 25th and 26th. The website has been updated over the last few days, so worth another look if you've been there before, worth a first look if you're new to SCC. With that, thanks again to the Furman team, and signing off for today. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ira.
Thanks.